Hello everybody, and welcome to our video series on learning SQL. Today's topic is going to cover aggregations in SQL. Okay. As always, all the concepts you learn here work across all databases. Doesn't matter if you're using SQL Server or Oracle or whatever. The only thing that might change are the syntax, so you'll have to make changes to that. If I use SQL specific command, I'll let you know and try to tell you the alternative in another relational database management system. Okay, so let's get started, shall we? If you've been following along, you can see this looks a little different than what we've been working with. So for this presentation, I'm just going to use a different database. It's a very simple database. It only has one table in it, and this is what it looks like. It has these few columns and only 10 rows of data. Okay, so it's just for demonstration purposes, so we can properly show the aggregations. In this panel here, that's my notepad. That's where I type in all my commands. It's a pure text editor. Doesn't do any formatting of any kind. Okay, down here in the bottom panel, this is MySQL. This is the console window or command line, and I'm using version 8.0.16. Okay, so that's it. That's my setup. Now here, this little notepad here, I'm showing you the aggregates that we can work with in SQL. It's the average. So if you use the average function, that calculates the average of a set of values. A count counts rows in a specified table or row, or counts rows in a specified table or view, that should say. Okay. Minimum gets the minimum value in a set of values. Maximum gets the maximum value in a set of values. And sum calculates the sum of values. So we'll be using these throughout from now on. We'll use them in this video. Okay, so these are the functions that you have access to, or aggregates, sorry, that you have access to, built into all relational database management systems. Okay, average, count, min, max, and sum. Okay, I'm just going to make that disappear now. Don't need it anymore. Okay, so let's go to MySQL, show our databases. This is specific to MySQL. These are the databases we have on our server. This is the one I want, myLesson. So I'm going to use myLesson, again, a MySQL specific command that sets this database as the default database, so that now all the commands I type are going to be executed against this database. Okay, so what is an aggregate? An aggregate is a function, the functions I showed you, that allow you to perform a calculation on a set of values, and it will return a single scalar value. In other words, it comes back with a single number, okay, every time you run it. Okay, we often will use these aggregate functions with the group by and having clause. If you remember from your previous video on the select statement, we had a select statement came in this order. These were all the clauses, and we covered select from, where, and order by, but we never touched the group by and having. Okay, now with the aggregates, these are what you use with aggregates. Okay, the group by and having. If you're not using aggregates, you wouldn't use the group by and having. Okay, so let's see. Now, looking at this data, you can see that some of the columns, some rows have the word null, 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 etc. MySQL shows it. Remember, null means nothing, an empty value, no value whatsoever. So MySQL shows the actual word null. It's not an actual word null, it just means nothing's there. Some systems, it'll show a blank. Okay, MySQL is showing null. Just remember what that means. Okay, so let's go down to here, and I'm going to just show my tables, and I got one called product. So let's select star from product to see what's in it, and we already know what's in it. Okay, those values that I shown up here. So here's the nulls, nulls, nulls. Okay, so let's say we want it to get the count of all the rows. How many rows are in the table? Normally, sure, it says 10 rows if I did the select star from the table, but picture you have a billion rows. You don't want to sit there and let it scroll through the screen. That's not how you figure out how many rows are in a table. You use the aggregate called count. So let's go up here to Notepad and type in the command. So it's a select, and what do you want to return? Remember, goes here. So I want to return the count. That's the function I want to use, and the function count has an expression you can use in brackets. So I'm going to use the star, meaning all. Okay, and I'm going to give it a column alias called number of rows. So that's my column alias, again from the last video. And where is it coming from? The product table. And as you can see, as I always do, all my SQL commands and keywords are typed in uppercase. But as you know, I've mentioned this many times, SQL is not case sensitive, so you can put it all in lowercase, it won't matter. Okay, I got my delimiter at the end. The default delimiter is the semicolon. The delimiter indicates when the statement is finished. Okay, all SQL commands need to end with a delimiter of some kind. Okay, so if I run that, let's see what we get. Save that, go back to MySQL, type in the word source. That's a MySQL specific command that allows you to load external script files. Try.sql. If you're in, say, Oracle, you'd use that symbol instead, the @ symbol, instead of the word source. If you're in SQL Server, it's a couple of words that you have to use. You just look it up and do it. So source etemp try. Let's run that. And there's my column alias, number of rows, and there it is, the count, 10. And there are 10 rows, right? Okay, if you left out the column alias like this and ran it, it would look terrible. Gives you what you typed in there, again from the last video. So I'm going to put the column alias back in and run that again so we can see. Now, the thing to know about the count function is when you use a star as your expression, that will count all rows, even if they contain null values. Even if it contains nulls, it counts all rows. Okay. So if you want to get the total number of rows, use the star. But if you use an expression, and let's use the product code, the column name, product code here. When you use an expression other than the word, the symbol star, then it only counts everything and it will ignore null values. So here I'm counting the product codes here, this row, and null, there's one null there, right? Two nulls, one there and one there. See them on row 2 and row 6 there. So I should get a count of 8 this time instead of 10. And again, here I'm not typing fast. I'm just using the up-down arrow keys to go through the keyboard buffer. And I type it. Now I get 8, because when you put anything in there, any expression value other than the symbol star, it ignores null values. Okay? So you get different results. Here, if I did it here in this column, I'd get a 9 because there's 9 actual values, only one null. So cost. Let's save that and run that. And you get a 9. Okay, so be careful what you're doing, what you're actually trying to figure out with the count function. Okay. So let's see, what do we want to do next? Okay, let's assume we wanted to count the productSell. Let's count that. Save that. And we get 8. Now let's look at that data closely. I'm going to run it down here. Select star from product, it was called. So here we have 2 nulls, so we got a count of 8. But notice here, this productSell is 8.1, and this productSell is 8.1. Okay? Let's assume we want to remove duplicates. So we just want to know how many products have unique selling prices or something like that. Okay? In your statement, you can use the word distinct. So count distinct product sell prices. Okay? So what that does is we'll remove duplicates. Distinct removes duplicates. So I only count this value once rather than twice. So let's run that, and now I get 7 because there's 1, 2, 3, ignore, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if you want to use distinct, you can inside the expression to count the distinct values. Okay? Now, we can also use a where clause with our count. So let's do this. Count star. Again, the where clause filters our return set. Let's say number of, let's move the from down a bit so we can see. Number of, cross that out, products costing more than, let's say, $5. Something like that. So number of products costing more than $5. So I'm looking at this column. Okay. Where am I getting it from? From. And remember, the where clause comes after a from clause. So I can say now where product cost is greater than 5. Okay. I got myself. Now, again, from all videos, I'm putting this on multiple lines just for readability. You don't have to. SQL is going to ignore all these line feeds. It doesn't matter. That's just for readability, so I can read it easier. Okay, and make sure I have everything in the order I want and everything's working. Now I'll run it. It says number of products costing more than $5 is 4. So I looked at the product cost. Let's see how many. Let me run it down here. It's larger. Select star from product. No, no, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I could use star. I could have used product cost there. It didn't matter because it's going to ignore the nulls anyways. The null is less than of $5, and I'm looking for all the ones greater than $5, so it's not going to get counted anyways with that where clause. Okay. All right, now let's look at the min and max functions. The min and max returns the minimum and maximum values. Now, if you're doing a min on a column that is a number, it returns the minimum number. If you're doing the max on a column that's a number, well, it returns the maximum number. But if you do the minimum on a column that's a character base, let's just product category, product name, product code, a minimum, it's based on alphabetical order. So that's what it'll return, the A's before the Z's or Z's. Okay. If you're working on a date column, a minimum returns the oldest date and max returns the newest date. Okay. So let's now find the highest maximum cost. So let's go here and find which is the highest cost. Obviously, we should return this value, 1215. So let's get rid of the max. And you have to put an expression in the max. You can't use a star. Only the star can be used with the count function. So what column I want to use? I want to use the product cost column. Okay, so I'm looking for the maximum value in the product cost column. Okay, and I'm just going to take out the column alias. I don't care for it right now. And I will take out my where clause. Okay, so now I'm looking for the maximum. Let's save that. I should get a value of 1215. And there it is, 1215. Okay, now if you want to see the minimum, let's look at the product code since it's characters. Product code, so you can see how characters work. So what do you think we should return? The X is the latest. Save that. Or sorry, Y is after X. I didn't see the Y. So YSD56 is the highest thing. Okay, it's based on the alphabetical order. So you can do the same with the min, average, and sum functions. Using the average and sum functions on a date column is not straightforward and is beyond the scope of this introductory course in SQL, but you can do it with, it's usually done on numbers, okay? The average and sum would be done on number columns, not text or character-based columns. The max, min, average, and sum functions always ignore null values. We can also create mathematical expressions inside these functions here rather than just using, columns. So I'll demonstrate both of these points with a simple request of finding the average dollar difference between the selling price and cost. So let's change this up. So let's return the productSell column. And let's return the productCost column. And then let's do, let's say the difference between those. productSell, this would be the dollar difference between them because they're in dollar values. And we'll just call that column difference from product. Okay, now let's add another column now. Let's take the average of that difference. Product sell minus product cost. Okay, and we'll say that's the average difference, and it's from the product. So now we're going to show this column, and the difference between that. So take 8.1 minus 3.4 and show that, and then it'll do that for all of them, and then it's going to show me a column with just the average, and the average should return one value. So let's source that. There we go. Now that's a little weird. The average difference is, notice I only have one row because the average only returns a single value. Now what it's seeing here is the first row here, 8.1 and 3.4, okay? And then the difference between that is 4.7. We see the average difference, but notice I didn't see it for every row. But first of all, let's prove what the average difference here is, okay? Oops, wrong key. So let's analyze where this number came from. Now right here, I have all the calculations. If we look at this data, 8.1 minus 3.4 gives 4.7. Notice this second row though has a null value in it. Let me go here to make it larger here. Select star from product. Okay, so sorry. Okay, so there we have it larger. So 8.1 minus 3.4 is 4.7. Remember I said that these aggregates ignore nulls. So this one has a null in this expression. In one of these columns there's a null, so that gets ignored. That calculation gets ignored. then 12.4 minus 6.1, etc., another null, so that one it gets ignored, then all those. So now if you add up all those, you get 31.73. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows that have calculated values. So therefore you take 31.73 divide by 8, you get the 3.966250, which is what we got here. Okay, so that's where that number comes from. Now you also notice that we only got one row. It's not sort of what we wanted to show. This sort of does not make any sense. Okay, so this, even though it worked for demonstration purposes, that's the average, showing it with these columns didn't make much, doesn't make much sense. So you have to remember that the aggregate functions only return a single value. So therefore, we only get one row returned, even though it's taking the average of all of this calculation. Okay, and then this doesn't make much sense, because when you use aggregates, you usually use the group by functions with it and the having functions. So I'm going to now describe how that works. So let's go back to let's go up to here and do a select star from, sorry, not star, let's do a count from product, and see how we use the group by. So let's go here and run that. So that's what we had gotten, a 10. But what if we said we wanted to know how many products we have in each product category? So you can see here we have products. These are the product names. And this one here is hardware. This one's hardware. This one is software. This is miscellaneous. Another one is software. Another one in hardware, etc. So what if we wanted to know how many products we have in each category? Okay. So before you worry about how you do it in SQL, how would you do that in just on paper? What you would do is make up your different categories. Maybe a column for hardware, a column for software. You'd write this down on paper. You'd write the word hardware, you'd write software, you'd write miscellaneous. Then you'd go counting. Oh, this one's in hardware, so I got a 1, 2, 3, 4 in hardware, 1, 2, 3, 4 in software, 1, 2 in miscellaneous. What did you actually do? What you did was put the products into groups. You put them into your product category groups. You created a group for hardware, you created a group for software, and you created a group for miscellaneous, and you put each product into them and then counted how many products you had in each group. That's what you did. So that's exactly what the group by does. It puts things into groups. Okay. So let's put in here the product category. I hit the caps lock, sorry. Category. So I'm going to show the product category and then the count. Okay, let's put the from on a different line. And then what I want to do is group by. I want to group by the product category column. Product category. So what it actually does is going to look in this column and look for all the same wordings. So it sees the word hardware, and then it'll create a group for hardware. Then it finds a different word called software, so it'll create a group for software. We've already got one for hardware, so it's not going to create another group. And then it'll find this word and say, okay, I'll create a group for this. And these all repeat also. So now it's created 3 groups, and then it goes through and looks at all these, counts all these ones that are in each group. Okay, and that's what it actually does. Okay. So let's save that and run it and see what we get. There we go. We got hardware, software, miscellaneous. Those are the three groups, and it counted each product that was in those groups, 4, 4, and 2. Great. So that's how grouping works, group by. So when you group by this, make sure you group by the proper column or columns that you want, something that is unique. Grouping by the column product ID or even the product code would be useless because nothing repeats. Okay? So you would have 10 groupings and one in every grouping. It doesn't make any sense. So you want to group by something that's a specified group. If you're to say, you know, count how many in a room, how many males and females there are, you would say all the males to the left of the room, all the females to the right of the room, and count them in each group. So that's what grouping does. But make sure there's something to group. If every value in a column is unique, there's nothing to group by. Okay? So careful of that. Now, let's say you wanted to show only the product categories that had less than or equal to 3 products, 3 or less products. So basically, we only want miscellaneous to be returned. Okay? Now, remember from previous videos in the select, from the select statement, from the simple select, we used a where clause to filter. So you might consider this. You might say where count %, because that's this column. I'm looking at this column here. If it's less than or equal to 3, that's all I want to return. Okay, so you might think that. I want to filter. So here's my return set. Let's filter it. And you say where the count is less than or equal to 3. That should only return this column, or row, I should say. That's what you think. So let's run that and see what happens. And you got an error. Oh, my goodness, and it says something. Okay, what happened here? Well, first of all, a couple things. Remember the keyed in order here? So remember this order by, the keying. We got select, from, where, group by. Notice the where comes before the group by, so you can't put the where after the group by. You can't do that, okay? So you think, okay, well, let's move the where above the group by then. Okay, let's save that. Now let's run it and see what happens. We still have an error, but it's a different error. It says invalid use of a group function. Okay, this is the key point here. Okay, what the problem is you tried to filter before the grouping was done. Okay, you haven't grouped the count yet. Okay, so what you have to do is do the filtering after the grouping. Okay, you're trying to filter before any grouping has been done, so these numbers don't even actually exist yet. Okay, so what you have to do is filter after the group by. So what we have to do is remove that and put it down here, but we can't put the where there. But what can we do? We can do a having. So change the word where to having. The having clause is used to filter an aggregate. So you only need the having when you're trying to filter on an aggregate function. See, this is an aggregate function. I'm trying to filter on the aggregate function. I could still have a where clause up here, but as long as I'm not using, I can say where, I don't know, productCost or productCategory. I'm doing category is equal to hardware. Doesn't make any sense, but I could do that because that's not an aggregate function. This product category is just a column. So anytime you're filtering on an aggregate function, this count is a function, average is a function, min, max, sum, you have to do it in the having clause because it has to be done after the group by, and the having comes after the group by. Okay? So now if I save this and run it, I get a valid return, because now what it's done is up to this point it's created this return set. Now I want to filter based on these numbers. Now I can filter out that row. Okay, so having is only when you want to filter on an aggregate function like count, average, sum, min, max. Okay. Okay, one more very important aspect of grouping. I'm going to change all this here. I'm going to type something here. Select product category and product name. Let's go back. Let's change this back to my picture. Product category, product name, and the count. From product, let's group by product category. Okay, let's save that and run that. Okay, and notice what it's done. Okay, gave me a proper answer. So, but look at the data. The product category column makes sense, and the count makes sense, but the product name doesn't make sense. Product 1, 2, 4. What happened to all these other products? Okay, MySQL is very forgiving with the group by. Okay, but this doesn't make any sense. If you're using another relational database system, you get an error trying to do this, because when you group by, if you're grouping by anything other than the aggregate function, you must include all the columns that are in your column list. So here I only included product category. I actually have to include the product name. Okay, so let's go product name. Because without including all of the columns, you get sometimes a result that makes absolutely no sense, depending on what you're returning. Let's run this now and see what you get. Now you get this, okay? And again, this is not what we want, but it's doing exactly what we asked for, and the result at least makes a little bit more sense. Product is in hardware, and there's one of them. And product is in software, and there's one of them. Our grouping now consists of the category name and product name. Since the combination of these two values will never repeat in any row, we get always a count of 1 for each group, okay? So with more complex table designs, you will have multiple columns and need to think about your grouping, okay? The group by clause should include all the columns except the aggregate columns, okay? So you have to keep that in mind. There are tricks to solve this using subqueries and stuff like this, or because I can create a subquery, take out this, and then with a subquery add the new column in and stuff like that. But it doesn't make any sense to put a product name in what you're trying to figure out anyways. I'm just showing you that you must include them all the time. MySQL, you don't have to all the time. But other systems will give you an error if you don't, okay? So that's aggregate functions. So I hope you have a better understanding now. And if you like the video, please click like, subscribe to my channel would be appreciated. And if you want to be notified of any new videos, click on the bell icon, and that's it.